discussion of the book How the South Won the Civil War: Oligarchy, Democracy, and the Continuing Fight for the American Soul by Heather Cox Richardson. Heather Cox Richardson is an American historian and professor of history at Boston College, where she teaches courses on the American Civil War, the Reconstruction era, the American West, and the Plains Indians. She previously taught at MIT and at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Richardson has authored 6 books on history and politics. Most recently, Richardson has started publishing Letters from an American, a nightly newsletter that chronicles current events in the larger context of American history.
I did spend some time reading about the South and in this nifty little book. Some heavy duty going on in there, but I read that in various places and read some, watched a little video about it and thought, well, yeah, this is what happened when I was a kid. People, the whole turn the political process from being the cowboys are now the Republicans are now the cowboys, and the good guys who carry guns, and the Democrats are the other people, and I think, yeah, that happened when I was in high school, and we were watching that kind of thing. Nobody really thought about it in the terms that this writer thinks about that, but we all kind of realized, well, this is what's making the Republicans work. They understand what's going on, and they are doing the things that they're building a constant stream of contacts to the people, to the population, and saying, well, this is why you should vote for us rather than them. And it's, as you say, Michael, it's a constant emotional response.
Yeah.
And and that's what the Republicans do now, is they spend all their money on political and emotional ads to put that out there, and we don't do anything about it. And
there's a ton of dark money coming through on that too. As
what?
A lot of dark money is behind some of these extreme candidates. Yeah. It seems to be more weighted by reactionary Republicans, that is, really right-wing conservatives. But I know there's dark money all over the place, and it's on both sides. I mean, the Democrats they've got their feet in that muck too, to an extent. Yeah. Who knows how much? That's why they call it dark money. You have to really,
right.
Kind of spotlight.
I think we could make a very strong argument if we did what Bernie Sanders did, which is say, I'm not going to take any money from PACs and corporations. It's not going to.
Yeah.
I thought that was the thing that distinguished him, and I wish he were president today. We'll go back to our discussion long ago, Dave, about who would be the better candidate. I still think that Bernie Sanders would have been a better candidate, and certainly
I completely agree with you.
Certainly,
I don't think he would have been a better candidate, but he would have made a better president.
Well, I think that there are a lot of people who are looking for honesty. What happens, and especially with younger people, I heard somebody commenting on this the other day, that people who are in their 20s and younger, they said, all we've known is the shitstorm. That's all we've seen is the conflict. We were born with 9/11, and all we've seen is conflict, with constant conflict all the time. And they write it all off. They say the whole system's bullshit, and they don't want to listen to Republicans. They don't want to listen to Democrats. And I think if somebody came along and actually told them the truth, or at least tried to tell them the truth, and communicate directly, they could be successful. I think it could. I think that was. I'm not saying Obama was ideal in this way. I don't know if he was. I don't want to make a saint out of him, but he conveyed that message that I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to do the right thing, and you can have some confidence in me. And that's why he got elected. And we need somebody who can do that same thing. Joe Biden's not doing it. I don't have anything against Joe Biden. I think he on all issues, if he and I were voting in the Senate, we'd probably vote the same way most of the time. But he's not the guy that we need. But you know, the thing, getting back around, Paul, to the theme of this book, the idea that I can only be free if somebody is not free. You know, that's the dilemma in America, the American paradox she describes, that in order for me to be the free cowboy out on the range, then the Indians have got to go. You know, in order for me to be a success as a farmer in the South, I need slaves. In order for me to be free as a businessman in the North, I need to have slave wages for people in my factories. You know, I'm dependent upon that underclass, that mudsill they talk about, in order to exercise my own freedom. That's the most striking thing for me in the book, is it lays it out. There it is. So what do we have now? We have people who want to take away rights from, you know, LGBTQ people. We want to take rights away from women. We want to take rights away from immigrants, from essentially anybody that is not us. And it hasn't changed. And I don't know how our side can open the eyes of people who are being exploited this way. I think they've opened the eyes of women, at least most women. You know, women are making progress. And now suddenly somebody comes along and says, yeah, hell with that. You know, you got to be a Christian like me, and you got to follow my rules. And I think I'm counting on women coming out in not only the midterms, but in the presidential election to turn the tide.
We can really hope, only hope, but you know, I'm more optimistic that, you know, when it comes to the balance of young people, especially young women, but all women of all ages, who are going to come out and say, hell no. You know, that could lead to an upset that we haven't really anticipated yet.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really know yet what's going on beneath.
No. Well, the thing about this book is that you know what my head says, how can we turn this into something fairly small and short and simple, but clear, as it explains this whole idea in a way that ordinary people would go, yeah, I know what that's about. I follow that thing, because without that understanding of what's been going on and what has been happening, Mitch McConnell, for on and on and on, the oligarchs in particular, that's my big beef, always talking about the oligarchs taking over, which is still on the radar. But, you know, if we don't have that kind of information organized in a way that people can like read it and enjoy it, and instead we get, I mean, you know, this guy's a good writer, but Jesus, you know, who over without a college degree anyway going to read it?
Yeah,
you know,
it's funny. In an interview, she said when she was writing the book that she took it to her publisher, and he said, "Well, you know, this theme you have is going to be at least, you know, 800 pages," and she said, "No. I want people to read it, not just say they've read it. I want to." So he actually cut it back. But I agree, it is. I don't know how you deal with that, Paul. It's, you know, how do you deal with people who don't have basic education and are not able or unable to read it effectively? You know, how do you deliver that to them in a, you know, like a Sesame Street version of the book, so that it makes it simple to understand? I agree. We need something. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, well, and it has to be video.
One of the things in that article I sent today. Now, this is a daily blog that she does, that Richardson does. It's called Letters from an American, and if you're interested in that, you can log on and get you can subscribe to it. You can send money if you want to, but you don't have to. One of the things she talks about in this one is the illiberal democracy. That's the first time I've ever heard that term. Have you heard that before? Illiberal, meaning the opposite of liberal democracy, meaning illiberal democracy.
Yes.
You've heard it before?
No, I haven't. I
think it was new to me too, although it made sense the minute I heard the term.
Yeah.
You know, as being a term that captures a big thought.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important because this CPAC thing she's referencing is coming up soon. And I expect that term to come out in a profound way there. It's going to be one of those things like the death tax. You know, it's going to define an issue, or at least define a group of people that now that we all hate liberals, we have the illiberal. We have the opposite of that, of those terrible liberal people who are going to destroy everything. And we take the term and we twist it around. And as I was saying last time, the language we use is really important. And we need to be very careful about controlling the terms of the discussion. And so I wish that there were Democrats. One of the things I wish would happen right now is for Pete Buttigieg to take a stronger position and take a lead, because he's the smartest guy they've got with any recognition right now. No doubt, he's a brilliant guy, and he's one who could take that and throw it back in their face. I don't think Biden is capable of that. You know, he doesn't have that sharp wit and that immediate reflex. But we need somebody who, when they say these things, can get right back at them right now. Don't let that thing settle in. Don't let their terminology become part of the lexicon. You got to fight it right from the very beginning. Snap it back, poke them in the nose.
You know, and the other thing in language is, how did the word liberal ever become a
pejorative?
Commie fanatic left winger of the farthest.
Yeah.
Speaking
off
of
the edge of the plate, when did that happen? That's a language kind of thing.
Right.
How liberal, the term liberal migrated.
Yeah.
You're not radical left.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just astounding how that's happened, and how the Republicans that have outfoxed us. The old don't think of an elephant. They're very good at labeling, and but Obama, when they said, "Oh, this isn't the Affordable Health Care Act. This is Obamacare." Obamacare.
Said, bring it on.
Immediately, remember what he did? He immediately embraced it. He said, "I'm
Sounds
proud
good to me."
of that term. He turned the tables on him right there. So most people now call it Obamacare, without if you're conservative, you might say, "Well, that's poison."
Yeah.
But if you're a normal American, or you're receiving Obamacare, my God, it's a nice thing to have. It's not a term of derision anymore.
Yeah.
That's how you turn the table.
Yeah. Well, speaking of wild-eyed liberals, hi Stan. Welcome to our discussion.
Oh, is that what he is?
We all want to change the world.
I had to segue in some way.
I'm fired up, ready to go. Sorry,
we were discussing the parts of the book, and the thing that I was focused on was we're just talking about the term illiberal democracy. Is that something you've ever heard before? Illiberal? Yeah. Well, this was used by this.
Conservatives would like that.
Well, this is coming up in the CPAC convention coming up soon, next week, I think. They've invited in this Hungarian to them, and he's the one he's the first one I ever heard use it. And I was just saying that it's important when people start things like that you throw it back at them right away, undercut it, because that could become a very useful term. That it includes the qualities of liberal, but I don't know, it's a strange term as far as I'm concerned.
It's
what it really means.
Right out of 1984, isn't it?
Yeah.
Speaking of, I was at the gym today. Thank you. And happens every now and then. And they had on one of the TVs, they had Fox, and it was of some show. There were two pretty women with sleeveless dresses, and there was a black man, and there was a I think a black woman and another white guy, and they were discussing Hillary's new talk show that has all these liberal celebrities as guests.
Mm.
You know,
are they eating children on the air, or is that?
The sound wasn't on, but the Krylon was liberal celebrities on Hillary Clinton's new show.
Yeah, I've noticed. I have a habit. I watch some news shows at night, and if I'm watching something like Rachel Maddow, I'll flip over to Fox just to see what they're talking about. And whenever there is a story like, the January 6th committee results, you flip it over there and they're talking about Hillary Clinton. they can't let it go. It's like, I'm gonna
how many times
play this card every time.
How many times was there a congressional committee that investigated Hillary Clinton? Was it like 10, 12
she
times?
Was there for, well, I don't know how many different committees, but she was there for 40 hours of testimony or so, a huge amount of time.
And was there any plan to overthrow the government or anything?
No.
In fact, they found nothing.
Or to kidnap children or any of that stuff. But one of the things that comes out of this for me, and I hate to put it in these terms, but there are people here who want the Civil War. They want another Civil War to occur. And I don't want another Civil War to occur, but
they don't want another Civil War. They want to continue the one that's going on.
Well, okay, but
the one that they've already won, damn
it. But in those terms, though, if it does come down to that, I don't want to be on the losing side. I hate to put it that way, but if the threat becomes imminent and it threatens my family and my friends, I want to be prepared. And that doesn't mean I'm going out buying guns, but it does mean I want to be, I want to know what's going on. So the opposition is really, it's much different than I think it's being portrayed in our liberal media. The liberal media would say, well, they're insincere and they're hypocritical and so forth. No, they're sincerely wanting to overthrow the democracy.
Well, you heard
they really wanted to do that. That's not.
They don't see it as that. They see it as restoring liberty. But the guy that was the media guy for the Oath Keepers. Did you hear his testimony?
Yeah, I did.
He said, he testified that this guy that's the head of the Oath Keepers, he sees himself as a very leader who will be like one of the founding fathers or something in the next revolution. And it's just like this big fantasy that they're on. They want to be important, and they want to think they're important. They want to think they're doing something important. Now, that's not to say they're not dangerous. They are, but I would like to, I don't know, I would like to think they're being watched by the authorities and that people are keeping tabs on them. The fact that they're all being called to account for their involvement in the Capitol attack is I think that's a little reassuring. I don't know how much of this is more than it was in the past, or just that we see more of it because of Trump's encouraging this kind of discourse and embracing these people. I don't care if they have guns; they're not here to shoot me.
Right. Well, one concern is that how many of these people who attacked the Capitol were former military people.
Well, that's true. Well, that's that's in a lot of countries. You have real right wingers in the military. They want to be part of the victorious army.
Yeah.
They want.
My concern though is I think maybe the officer corps may be a little different, but the rank and file in the military, probably if you took a vote, they're 60-40 for Trump.
Yeah.
Their, majority of them would be Trump voters. And if he was able to foment a revolution, basically, an insurrection, I don't know that those people would support the government. We've been through this before. Fort Sumter. We've been through this before, and it's not. I don't think it's being too cautious to make sure that the command structure in the military remains impartial and defends the Constitution and follows direction. So, at any rate, I sometimes hate to think of these things.
Well, weren't there testimony from military officials that were very alarmed at what was going on and were ready.
Oh yeah, like I say in the officer corps,
we're not going to go along with this. We're not, and I don't know. Anyway,
Paul, did
I'm not trying to underestimate this or whatever, but it seems like the last Civil War there was a huge. Well, I don't know. Part of it. I mean, there was a big cause, and there was, and it was started by the rebels, the South. It wasn't and what do these militias think, that they're a bunch of liberals getting together and deciding to? I mean, they're the ones that are setting up the autocracy, and they're the ones that want Trump. What are they worried about? That what do they think is going to happen? I don't know. It's a bunch of clowns. So part of me thinks it's a bunch of clowns playing soldier, but.
And they probably are. But the other thing and I've been thinking about this while we've talked, is that in her book, the other thing that was she mentioned it and didn't continue, was in fact that the oligarchs were the ones who were responsible for setting all that stuff. As Fort Sumter was set up because cotton farmers in the South insisted on it. And we have some oligarchs in the country. We got people with way too much money who could decide.
Soros, for example.
Yeah, I mean, there's just any number of people out there who would say, well, yeah, we should run it because we know how, and you guys have fucked it all up. So
getting back to the book, it's interesting that she seems to put all this in terms of class conflict more than a racial or other. It's wealthy people trying to create an illiberal democracy that benefits them and keeps other people from rising. And it's an interesting. I think the founding slave owners, the planters, were interested in protecting their own interests, and in fact, their interest in protecting their own interests was in contradiction to the principles of all men are created equal and et cetera, et cetera. And I guess, and the other thing is, it's interesting that it's seen as class. I mean, she goes back to, and I haven't read Caste. Have y'all read Caste?
Yes.
Yeah. I imagine she talks about this stuff, but she goes back to Great Britain and the idea that poor people are lazy and inherently unequal and inherently not capable of being responsible. And when it was the oligarchic rules that threw them off their land and impoverished them,
right?
Their greed, but then they turn around and they blame the victim of their own greed, and then that attitude came over to this country, with this. She makes a point that this was the people that founded America were Englishmen, right. And many of them did not want to break with. They wanted to remain Englishmen. They just wanted to be treated more fairly, and then they got to the point where
Benjamin Franklin was an Englishman.
Yeah.
Our economic interests are being threatened here, and we don't have any recourse, so we have to break with this. But it's and the other thing, I'm hoping this will become clearer as I read more of it. But I don't understand why the little guy, the guy that's on the bottom of the economic ladder, why does he buy this bullshit from the oligarchs? If it's a class issue, why don't the lower, why do lower class people want to back Trump? You know, economically, why do they want to back this right wing bullshit? Why do they support the oligarchs who are the ones that are, I guess maybe it comes down to what you're talking about, Michael, is language and rhetoric, and how they're able to convince people that you're more free if you back us than if you back people that would actually help you economically.
Well, if you buy the argument that the Democrats, the professional class,
Right.
us, I mean, educated people, I mean, you know, the whole bunch of us, businessmen, doctors, lawyers, social workers, teachers, and so on, that we liberal Democrats took over the Democratic Party, which was a blue collar party at its very base and in its broadest way. Farmers, workers, laborers, and the like. If they're feeling abandoned by the professional Democrats who took over, they say they don't understand us. They're doing fine. They're doing this. They're doing, you know, they've got plenty of money. They've got they've got savings. They're investing money. And they're buying homes, and we are less and less able to do that because the Democrats haven't taken care of us. The Rust Belt, the farmers, particularly.
Well, you know.
So if that's true, then here comes Trump, who promises them that he tells them pretty directly that the Democrats haven't done a damn thing for you. So they latch onto his star. I think that's the best explanation of what
they latch on to what?
And that it's going on even now. But there's fewer that are hanging on. What surprises me is they haven't seen Trump for the liar and the deceiver and the baseless promiser that he is. Of course, you know, it takes time to kind of come around to say, I've hitched my wagon to this star who's promised so much, and now what did he do? Well, that's the way I see it.
I think you're onto something there, dude. I think that's an important idea. That how do the people you're talking about, Stan, who you know, wonder why they would support Trump, it's because they see us the same way we see the oligarchs. They see a group of people who are, you know, who are advantaged or privileged because of whatever, because of education or because of
we don't care about them,
and we really don't care about them, and
we're giving away their money to immigrants and Black people, and
right. That we're not taking care of it. I mean, what the biggest change I think in the Democratic Party in the last 30 years has been the recession of the unions. Joe Biden talks about the unions and he addresses the unions a lot, but the power of the unions has been significantly diminished, and that's where democracy was really fomented. It at least, you know, progressed.
And that was an effective force against oligarchy.
Sure,
it kept the capital in line, and capital had to bargain with labor and had to recognize labor's rights.
Yeah,
but now, you know,
I found it interesting in looking at the source of this. I was listening to an interview with Heather Richardson, and she was asking a more of a historical question. I wanted to have my English teachers here respond to this because I thought it was very interesting. She said, in order to understand what was going on in the early 1600s here in America, when English people began to come here, is you have to understand what was going on in England at the time.
Right.
And,
Right.
you know, you've heard, you know, if you read Dickens, of course he was a little later, but the conditions in England were really crappy. The wool industry had collapsed. People were unemployed. There was health service. There was, you know, disease, plagues. So people, you know, the autocrats coming in and screwing with people all the time.
And they took away their land. There was some Parliament passed some law that allowed the wealthy to come in and just throw people off their land.
Right, and the Reformation had occurred, and the English Church was taking over, and the English Church was not really that sympathetic to the poor. So you had people who came out of that. When they came here, you know, while this was a rugged area, they saw the potential for this great freedom. And one of the things she talks about is the Tempest. And I didn't realize this. I mean, I've seen the Tempest perform, but I didn't realize that the shipwreck that is the key there was in the Bahamas. So it was really the first play that was written about the New World, or at least the first one I'm aware of anyway. You know, it's where we get the expression "brave new world" that Huxley picked up on later. That this was the guy's daughter, right? She sees men for the first time, and that it's, you know, the brave new world that has these men. And when you understand that, I think that is at the root of this dilemma or this paradox in America of my freedom and their freedom. That these folks came here and they saw nothing but wide open spaces. There was nothing here. Well, there were savages, but they don't deserve. Right, and that's it. That in order for me to have this freedom here, in order for me to come in and have my farm and do the things that I want to do, these folks got to go. They weren't here to bring freedom to everyone. Maybe some of them were initially. I mean, it's not a cut and dry thing, but they weren't here to become part of the American continent and embrace the folks who were here and meld themselves with it. That wasn't it at all. There's nothing here. And that attitude of there's nothing here continues today. And in my struggle against developers, it's the same damn thing. They look at a place and they say, there's nothing here. And what used to be, that was a forest and there was nothing there. And now it's a field, there's nothing there. And pretty soon it's, well, here's a poor neighborhood, there's nothing there. Turn down those poor people's houses and let's build something substantial because they don't count. It's nothing. And it's that kind of attitude that is the foundation for this oligarchy, that if people on the bottom don't count, well, you don't have to feel guilty about, you know, the wealth disparity or, you know, anything of the sort. You know, they don't count. They're not. And there are, Dave was referring to I think to the resentment that drives people to Trump, and one of the big things, and it was Clinton who supported the free trade agreements that closed all the factories, got rid of all the well-paying factory jobs, sent them to China, and you know the people that saw their towns fall apart. That was I mean, the Republicans, but here's the thing, the Republicans have probably had more to do with taking away the power of unions, making the tax system serve the rich, et cetera, repressing welfare programs, et cetera, et cetera. So they've done more to impoverish people and keep people down, yet they've convinced them that it's the Democrats' fault. How did they do that? No. How did they do that? Paul, I would seek your... Nobody can answer that one. Because we talked... It must be something to do with language. I'm sorry. Paul talked about something some years ago. Yeah. I've been chewing on this for a long time, that when communism fell, we didn't have any tale to tell anymore. No. And I think there's something behind this that, you know, for instance, I would like to have certain things happen with products being made. I think cars should be done a certain way, or whatever it is. And so I'm raising hell. Well, who's producing the cars? They are. If I attack them, am I going to produce these things? Am I going to give you your consumer goods? Are the Democrats going to provide that for you? And people look at that and say, well, shit, you know, I need to make sure that I got baby formula, and the Democrats are not doing that for me. You know, it's whatever it is, these people can deliver. They may be corrupt, they may be oligarchical, but they can deliver, they can get the stuff for it. Democrats don't have an opposing, you know, an alternate plan.
It's a matter of degree, though. I mean, you know, capitalism doesn't have to be so one-sided. I mean, capitalism can benefit more people than just the oligarchy.
Well, it can.
It does benefit Democrats who have made it as much as it does Republicans who have made it.
Yeah.
I won't say there are oligarchs, you know, the Koch brothers, for example, you know, what they've amassed in their businesses, or Sam Walmart.
Walter.
Right.
You know, talk about, you know, and I don't know what his party is. I would presume he's probably conservative, but then that's probably my bias speaking. Well, if he did that down in Arkansas, he must have had the money, and then the Democrats were the laborers he got working for him for next to nothing. And my God, next thing you know, we've got a worldwide empire. You know what Walmart did, taking over the small towns? I mean,
it wiped them out.
Destruction to small town businesses as Walmarts moved in one after another. I saw it myself in the small towns where I stayed overnight in. They were the center they were the social center. Any night of the week you wanted to do something in Hodgenville, just drive over to the Walmart. Everybody's there. They're partying. They're visiting outside. They're going in and getting their groceries or their stuff, you know, and Main Street died. So, but my point really is that when you look at the spread of money, you know, the Democrats have done as well as the Republicans have, because it's capitalism, as Stan, I think, was beginning to say. You know, it benefited everybody who knew how to build it and knew how to, you know, education was a part of it. You learned commerce, you learned this, you learned that. And often you learned at the feet of your dad who started a business, and then you went to the next step. You know, I don't know. I don't know about this strain between Republican and Democrat. You know, it's the most painful thing for me, because we ought to be working together, and we lost it somehow. Well.
Paul, did you have something to add on that? I think I may have cut you off.
No, that you know, you were the comment about the collapse of the Soviet Union was really the issue at that point, but you know, I don't know how we put this together. I mean, Brown put it together very well. I mean, you know, we can go back and reread it and highlight the points that make what we want to say clearer. But I think she'd made it just as clear. Richardson, is that her name?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I mean, it's just like, oh yeah, all right, got that. Check that one off. Let's see what else we got. And you know, say if I next time with Sarah Chase, you know, and a couple of other writers. Most of the women writers are the ones that are doing the really good work.
Yeah, seems that way. Yeah. Well, the thing about the Walmart phenomenon, Stan, it's kind of the same way. Why do people vote for Trump? Why do people shop at Walmart? You know, I don't shop at Walmart because of their business practices. I refuse to shop there. But other people, they're looking, you know, where can I get stuff for the cheapest price? That's where I go. And in a small town, I've seen this happen in a lot of towns in Kentucky. In a small town, they don't understand that when they shop at Walmart, the key is you're not shopping at your local family-owned business.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not what you're doing, it's what you're not doing that's really critical. You're not supporting your local business. And whether it's a conspiracy among the oligarchs or not, it's the phenomenon. I think I mentioned last time that we went down to Brandenburg and we're staying there overnight. And, you know, again, the Brandenburg was hit by a tornado and their old town was pretty much destroyed. Now Brandenburg is the bypass and it's all chain stores. There is no local business except the guy who has a franchise for an Arby's or something. And that changes the dynamics in that town completely, because you're not going to oppose one of these businesses because they can cut you off. You know, so the power is now, it's not political, it's economic. And that's what's happening. You know, the power that someone like Mitch McConnell can wield is economic power. It's not a contest of ideas. Democrats, I think, put too much emphasis on that we have a great idea and so you ought to vote for us because our ideas are great. Most folks really don't give a shit about those ideas. What they want is cheap groceries. They want consumer goods. And
right. They want everything cheap. And yeah. It's funny that most of that comes from China, and so you never have Trump attacking China when wait, you're taking away my cheap clothes.
You don't even hear there's no longer even an appeal to buy American. You don't hear that very much anymore.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, I mean, because what does buy American mean? You know, Toyotas are made in Georgetown. So buy American, well, it's a Japanese car. The Japanese are the ones who are making big profits off of it, but it's made here in America. And so there's no longer that appeal, but all these things sort of come together to explain why somebody votes the way they do.
I think a lot of it
don't forget, guys, that Walmart was one of the biggest promoters over about 3 or 4 or 5 years. Says what we sell is made in America. We're featuring this. Come buy. You can buy made in America. We're going to get our mojo back, but you got to come to Walmart because we've got the product. You go somewhere else and you can't find the made in US anymore. And they really were on a campaign to find things, you know, often cheap shit, like, you know, probably 3/4 of what you find in Walmart anyway. But they used it, and that's another example of how the Republicans have controlled the ideas, the language. Made in America. Oh, that's Walmart. It's a ploy, it's a system, but it's another way the Republican.
The American flag has become identified with conservatism.
Well, I want to thank everybody for turning out tonight. This is fascinating. And for next time, if you have a particular slant on, I would like to continue keeping this reference in the background. And one of the things that she talked about in an interview, and I would encourage you to look on YouTube and you'll find a whole bunch of different interviews she's done. But she says her purpose is to view current events against the backdrop of history.
Right.
That's what I'm interested in doing here. Is I want to talk about current events, but I don't want it to be just, you know, repeating the bullet points I see on TV. I want to bring your knowledge and your experience and your take on the history of whatever the topic may be, so that we can better understand what's going on today.